Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, everyone knows if we go down 0-2 here at home, have to go to Philly, the odds are stacked against us. And for us to go out there, split the series, and like you said, have the momentum going back to Philly is huge for us. I mean, it's going to be, we're going to have to play really good baseball moving forward. We have to clean some stuff up, but, we couldn't ask to, be in a better situation, and we're feeling confident.
For Michael to only be 22 years old and, his first full season since he was called up late May, I think last year. How impressed are you with his maturity and his athleticism and his cool under the pressure, like a situation like that?
I mean, I can, I don't want anyone in center field when I'm pitching the ball. That's for sure. I mean, he's a Gold Glover. He solidified that last night, and for him to come up there in that situation, I mean that, let alone making the catch, but just getting the ball back in the infield super quick, and you got hats off to Austin Riley for being backing up the bases and being right there in a good position.
AJ, you work with AJ Smith Sharp over the winter, and Snit still hasn't announced the game three starter yet. If it is AJ, how do you think he will handle the pressure of being playing in his first postseason game in Philly?
If I was in that situation, I don't know how I'd be feeling, but I do know AJ really well, and I can tell you he's probably one of the most athletic persons I've been around, and he really impressed me because that was really the first time I got to see him throw was during the off season, and he impressed me off from the start. So I'm fully confident. I'm sure he'll be in there sooner or later in the game, and I fully expect him to go out there. And I mean, he's been killing it the past month, and velocity's up, command's up. So he's going to be a horse on the mound.
What do either of you maybe remember about your first postseason start, and what would be something that you learned from that moment, and maybe advice you would give to someone maybe making their first postseason debut?
Um, yeah, and my first postseason start was in 2019 in Oakland. I remember it was the loudest stadium I'd ever heard at the time. Um, that was a wild card game. I can remember as being real nervous before it started, but then once the game starts, it just gets in the flow, and you settle in pretty quick. I would just remind him of that and be like, yeah, you're gonna naturally have emotions about this, but once you get on the mound, it's all the same.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be nervous. There's no way getting around it. There's going to be butterflies, but that's what makes you perform better. You feed off the energy in the crowd, and there's nothing wrong with going out there and having some butterflies. So I'll just embrace it, enjoy it, and try to soak it all in.
For Sean, Aaron Nola is a different kind of pitcher than say Zach Wheeler, some of their relievers with his high velocity fastball. That they've been able to score in the last two games. Do you think this is a potentially a better matchup going against Nola versus say Wheeler in the previous game?
It's just different. He's a different guy, but he's also a very good pitcher and an accomplished pitcher. So he's different. So the game plan is, a little different, and what we're trying to do. So um, it's not better or worse. It's just a different guy, and we have to, prepare for that and game plan for it.
How much you guys Nola pitched against you guys three times in the regular season this year? How much does that familiarity come into game planning for this postseason game?
Uh, it helps. But they've seen our guys too. When you're playing within the division, you have that familiarity, and you have to take that into account and move forward with it. So it is no advantage or disadvantage because they've seen all our guys too.
AJ, you guys have used the opener to great effect in the 21 World Series a few times. If you were to use that now or at some point during this postseason, do you think that experience, having done it, will help some guys like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going out there, and in the postseason, you're more likely to throw more than an inning. You might have to go out and get 4 or 5 outs, and that's the postseason. Everyone's going to the bullpen a lot sooner now. So we're definitely going to be ready down there. Whether we do use an opener or not, I'm fully confident with the guys down there. They're going to be ready, and we just got to go out there and execute pitches, and not worry about. It's not comes down to stuff. It all comes down to location now, and not making a mistake and just sticking to our strengths and not falling to, the hitter's strengths and hitter's weaknesses, just sticking to what we do best.
What does today look like for you guys? Will you go to the ballpark? Will you just take some time off today, watch some film? What does it look like for you guys?
I think just go straight to the hotel and get some rest and be ready to go tomorrow.
AJ, you
Austin.
played in the playoff games Philly last year, or one of them. What is the Phillies do pretty well at home in the postseason? What is the atmosphere like? How would you describe it in playoff baseball in Philadelphia?
I told everyone this past off season that Philly was probably it was the loudest stadium I've ever been in, especially last year in the postseason. And I mean, we know Philly fans, we know them pretty well, and they're passionate for their team, and so are we. But it's definitely going to be it's going to be chaotic, it's going to be loud, and we just have to be ready for it.
What's the funniest thing or most memorable thing you've heard in the bullpen from the fans above you there?
I mean, they'll come at you with anything, your family. But no, I mean, I actually enjoy it. I love, getting heckled and right there in the bullpen, they're right on top of you. So it kind of, builds your adrenaline up, it gets you excited and gets you going a little bit. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, I was going to kind of go off that when people talk about how loud it is, but can it also, I don't know, do you like playing in those environments? Do you thrive off of it, even if they maybe are cheering against you in those moments?
Yeah, I think there's nothing better, obviously, than pitching at home and, having a super, loud crowd, but there's nothing better than shutting up a crowd as well on the road. So that's what I enjoy doing is, silencing a crowd, and hopefully I get a chance to do it.
Sean, Austin kind of, it seemed like he was being a little modest last night. He said that he was just in the right place at the right time because he was shouting 1-1-1 and that his momentum in shouting carried him towards that ball. But do you think he showed a little more alertness maybe than he's leading on by being there to back it up and then also to make that throw without a second to spare?
Yeah, he probably was just being modest. I'm sure he saw the throw coming in and was getting behind it, and he found himself in the right spot. And he's a good player, and those are just his instincts kicking in. There's nothing that tells you got to do that or be there, but it's just a good baseball player making a good play.
Did he kind of show last night how elite he is as a third baseman now on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching him all year, and it's pretty obvious from day one of spring training that he's one of the best out there. And that play last night was, pretty special.
Hey, Jim, curious, is there such a thing as momentum from last night carrying over into tomorrow, or is that kind of all gone and dissipated by the time game starts?
I mean, of course, I think, the momentum came back on to our side. But with that being said, I mean, we have to continue to play really good baseball. And I don't think we came out obviously slow the past two games, and we can't afford to, keep doing that and relying on coming back in the later innings. So there's definitely some stuff we need to clean up, and on both sides, pitching and hitting, and because this team is not going to give in, and they're at home in Philly, they're going to be excited, and but definitely that was a huge game for us just to settle back in, and we're just excited to get down there in Philly.
Anything else for AJ or Sean?
And AJ, I'll ask just to ask, but I mean, you guys haven't been told who's starting tomorrow, have you?
We don't know.
Thank you.
I want to bounce one thing off of that. Sean, you worked a lot with Bryce Elder, who had a lot of success, was a big part of what this team did this year. His second half, obviously not what he wanted it to be, but as you've worked with him and now with this opportunity in front of him, what are your thoughts if Bryce is the guy that gets the ball in Game 3 for the Braves?
Total confidence in Bryce. I know what kind of competitor is in person he is. I know he wants the ball too. So, if Bryce gets his name called, glad to go out there and call the game for him. And, I know he's chomping at the bit to get out there. So I think he's as capable, if not more capable than anyone else in the staff.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
We'll have manager Brian Snitkeranswer in here momentarily.
for this.
All right, we'll open it up for questions for Snit.
Hi, Snit. Did you decide on a starter yet?
Nope, we're still discussing.
Can you go over kind of what options are or how you are you leaning towards an opener or a regular starter?
Well, that's the type of things we're looking at, really. So we got, the rest of the morning when I get done here, we're going to go discuss it more.
What are some of the variables that you and your staff are taking into consideration with determining who will start game 3?
Just a lot. Lengthwise, we got some options. Guys that, just there's a lot of things. It's like I said, if we want to do an opener, who we're going to follow up with if we decide to do that. If we want to just go the traditional route, or there's just a lot of different scenarios that we're looking at.
Sid, is it fair to assume that if it wasn't kind of an exceptional environment and the situation, that Smith Shawver might be a easier choice if if he's one of the options?
No, well, I mean, he's obviously one of the guys in the conversation. Yeah, I mean, we weigh all that stuff, in our discussions, because that's, it is a wild scenario there. So, like I say, I think we're leaning one way, but we're just going to try and finalize it here probably in the next hour.
So much has been made about your ability to connect with the players and the special bond you have. And with that said, when you have a pitcher making their playoff debut, do you say anything to them or just, hey, man, it's go time?
No, I don't think you have to. I mean, I think those situations kind of speak to themselves, and you know what? There's probably nothing I'm going to say that they already haven't thought of, or there's a lot to process. And if they're making, like, let's say, a first start in the playoffs, so there's a lot that goes into that anyway. I can tell them all I want, pat them on the back and all that kind of stuff, but then until they toe that rubber and feel that emotion and adrenaline rush and everything, that then that's when it'll become real for them.
You guys have faced Aaron Nolan has pitched against the Braves 3 times this season. Does that familiarity come into play with facing him often, and how what is the key to having success again?
It does. I mean, because we got guys that have had a lot of history with him. I know he was really good the last time he pitched against us. I mean, he's one of the top pitchers in baseball. I mean, how he just the assortment that he has, how he can extend games. We've had a few guys that have done okay off of him. I mean, he's done okay off us too. So, I mean, he's a tough ride because he got so many weapons and he throws strikes and, he can command his fastball and so you just got to get in there and fight like we did last night. I mean, it's, you got 27 outs to make something happen.
Speaking of last night and game 1, do you think for the most part the Phillies has been able to execute and make it tough on Atlanta hitters so far in this series?
Yeah, no, they got a good plan. You can tell, and they have really good arms. I mean, that's a really strong pitching staff all the way. They got good starters. They got a deep bullpen, and you can tell, that they've done their homework and they're executing their plan.
Snit, Austin kind of downplayed his being there last night to back up that throw. He said he was just yelling 1-1-1 and his momentum carried him in the right spot. But do you think he was being a little modest? I mean, that was
I think that's just that's a baseball play. That's a guy with great baseball instinct and seeing the game in front of him. And he probably didn't, he just is doing that subconsciously. I'm sure just a baseball player in him took him to that spot and able to make that play. I mean, a great throw too. Like I said, it reminded me of that Carlos Correa play the other day that he made on that in the infield. I mean, it's just like the Derek Jeter moment, years ago in the playoffs, and it's just one of those, I think, instinctual plays that a baseball player like Austin can make.
That was another example of what you were talking about, how good he is defensively at third base. Maybe overlooked a little bit defensively.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's as good as there is for me in the game. And I'm biased. I get to see him every day and been through so much with that kid that obviously I'm going to toot that horn every chance I get because I believe in it.
And when you look back at the series in Philly last year, do you think the crowd made any impact? on the Braves?
I think it's as nuts of places I've ever been. That's for sure. Yeah, I think they can have. I don't know that it's going to. There may be a few guys that have not experienced that until they get there. I'm sure these guys are talking about it. But I think for the most part, when you've been through what these guys have been through, you know what, it kind of jacks them up too.
Ned, along those lines, there was a seismologist claims that there were slight tremblings there last night, right when that double play was made in Atlanta. Is that as loud as you've seen it there? There have been some loud moments. What is that about as loud
moments? I know that. I remember back when Hinske hit that homer in the playoffs. I think Bobby's last year. I thought the thing was going to collapse. And you know what? Last night, I ended up showing emotion for the first time all year, and I'm paying for it this morning. it was pretty crazy. I know my grandson got a little up. He told me, he said, "Grandpa, I was a little scared when that happened." So,
what do you mean by showing emotions?
I kind of jumping up. I got a bad shoulder now. I got pulled my hamstring just on Austin's homer and the last out being made.
If you were to go in the direction of an opener, kind of what would lead you in that direction?
Potential lineups, things like that. Just who's available. Like I said, it's just ongoing discussion as to what we're going to do.
After yesterday, is everybody available?
Yeah, everybody's available. It's good. I mean, some of them guys are going to pitch every game of this playoff season.
Anything else for Snit?
About AJ Smith-Shawver, did how he did in the inter squad game? Is that part of your decision?
That was really impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
Snit, with the craziness of the ending yesterday, does it make it more difficult to kind of lock into a game, or does it make it easier for the guys just with how kind of crazy and chaotic that ending was and how emotional it was?
No, I don't think so. I think the biggest thing it does is, we feel a lot better today boarding that airplane, even with the series being even. I think that's the biggest thing is that, we got a couple more games to play.
Alrighty. Thanks, Nick.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Ned.